Yo guys, alright, so we are going to react to, oh wait, I'm not even following, that's kind of crazy. We're going to react to a video made by Abe Lil 3D. The 3D industry's situation, my opinion and advice. And Abe is someone that has been in the 3D 3D artist, 3D really space for like a while now, and I feel like a lot of people hold his opinion and advice to a high standard. So I'm interested in seeing his take on the current state of the industry.
Can buy the game, and already the numbers seem to be gigantic for Rockstar. Sony
Yeah.
decided that they don't want to do any more physical discs starting 2020.
Okay. Yes. Sony not doing any disc and all that. And there's still, it's been like a week now, and they're still receiving backlash now
8, if I'm not mistaken,
on every post.
that definitely changed what some people were thinking about Sony for the past couple of weeks. And of course, Xbox is laying off a bunch of people. Over 3,000 people are losing their job.
That one was crazy, mainly because also during the Xbox showcase, there was one of the games that that was getting canceled, mainly because Joe, I guess there were no funds. They were closing the studio, and basically they still showed the game trailer or teaser trailer in the Xbox showcase, just in case if any investors wanted to give money to finance the project. But the fact that they did this, honestly, for a lot of players, they were like they felt like they were being played in their face. Like at that point, might as well just not show it in the showcase
in the next couple of weeks, with over 1,000 losing them a couple of days ago, which is an absolute disaster, and it seems like their business model is not working the way they want.
Yes.
So what the hell does this mean for us as artists? What the hell does this...
And also, even like in Canada, we've discovered in one of my videos when I was actually doing a reaction on the success of Paralyze, we've realized that Ubisoft business model has been working for like the past 20 years or 30. They haven't been making any type of profit, and the fact that the government help that we've been giving them is an essential part of their business model, is kind of worrying a lot of people, because that means, you know, Ubisoft hasn't been making any type of profits, and they are actually in the negative. And yeah, especially for the fact that we've been giving them I guess the government has been giving them a lot of money.
This means for the industry. Is it the end of the industry? Is it the end of everything?
No. In the indie scene is going up.
And the answer is no. I've been talking quite a bit with several of my peers, people who have been laid off, people who are still working on big studios, people who are doing indie things, people who are doing their own stuff. And the general sentiment is that it's very, very obvious that right now the business model that especially some of these big companies have been trying to emulate or achieve is not sustainable. It's unsustainable. For several years now, big companies have gambled on making a hit similar to what we have with Fortnite, getting ahead with some games similar to like Call of Duty, right? Like they've been investing, and I say quote unquote investing because they're just pouring money, crazy money, into trying to guarantee one of these like billion-dollar hits on their productions. Which, by the way, not only video games are suffering from this, the film industry, the entertainment industry, the software industry, like there's so many industries that are suffering from this like mindset of like gambling, gambling the money into investments that don't have a strong support or a strong reason to exist that is going to guarantee their ROI. And the problem with this is one of the main things that most of my peers have mentioned is the issue.
And this is why I love Paralyze, because the CEO of the studio basically created Paralyze because Paralyze was basically filling up a missing part in the market, because Sims was basically the monopoly for these type of games, and he wanted to create a competitor for Sims. And if you're thinking in a more strategic way, there are many many games that can generally become a hit if you just think of it strategically. You're just not looking far enough. You're just thinking about making the next shooter game, and it's just, it gets to a point where you have to create something new, or you have to fill up missing part in the market. And right now, freaking the next hero shooter, or another shooter game, like these type of games are already saturated, so no, I think AAA needs to kind of shift their perspective
with the disconnection between the artistic side of things
and really reorganize their management. Really, that's a big thing.
and the management side of things. I was reading something about the recent Microsoft stuff where they mentioned that they were up to 14 different levels of authorization needed for
Oh
specific
my
decisions on projects.
gosh.
Can you imagine that, guys? Imagine having to ask 14 different departments or different people or different like hierarchies or whatever.
But also Black Flag Resync, Assassin's Creed game has been a success. But also people like the original, so I feel like there was no reason for people not to like the new version, especially with the fact that, and actually though, this is actually the success of Assassin's Creed is actually a good example, because Assassin's Creed has been going downhill, and the reason why Black Flag Resynced is like such a success is because of the fact that um it's mainly because of the fact that they've redid the whole like gameplay and everything. They've added new stuff, and they've really remixed the gameplay loop, so it's actually a different game feel for the players. So actually, the fact that they've started to rebrand the entire thing and try to do something new is what brought it the success. It's not like the higher quality of in visuals,
if a specific change that you feel is good for the game or good for the production can go through. It's bonkers. I mentioned this a couple of live streams ago where I had a client
14
like that
levels is
several years
crazy.
ago where there were 5 levels of authorizations whenever we made the change, and it was a nightmare. I swore to myself that I would
Wow.
never work with something like that ever again because it was just so difficult
That
to
bad?
manage
Just
to
5?
capture
And
what everyone
wow.
else in that change wanted. It's just impossible to create something that everyone agrees on. So what does
Yeah.
that mean for us as artists? What does that mean?
And what ends up happening is like two people that are in higher ups or asking suggestions to the artist, that's like sometimes people will ask you things that are just contradictions to each other. Like, I want this blue, but the other person that's also higher up wants this red. Like, I can't like, you can't meet up with all of these expectations, it's just
For you maybe who are studying right now,
just too
going
much.
through a program, working on your portfolio, trying to follow all of the advices that we give here in the channel and that everyone else gives, right? What does this mean for the industry? The first thing I want to tell you guys, the industry is not dying. If you take a
Yeah.
look at the numbers, the entertainment industry has
Things are going
been
up.
growing and growing every single year.
There's
The
more
amount of
games
money
every
that is
year.
in the industry, the amount of sales, the amount of like
Yes.
transactions that happen has been growing and growing. Another example in terms of
Yes.
entertainment, for instance, are board games. I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but for instance, board games as an entertainment source have grown so much in the past couple of years, like ridiculously high. So I don't think that this is the end of the entertainment industry as a whole. However, there is a big change that is happening and has been happening for the last couple of years. The first thing I want to tell you, especially again if you're a student and you always dreamed about working at the studio and being there for like 20 years and being a loyal employee and working on multiple amazing projects, that specific situation is going to be less and less common. Because of the way the world is working, because of the way studios are making decisions, because of the way projects are being managed, it's very difficult for a specific studio to hire a big amount of people and keep them for a long time. Is it possible? Yes, like this is still gonna be possible in some places, but especially at the bigger and bigger scales, they're used to a lot of sort of like changes. They are gonna hire someone for a specific thing, and once that's over, thank you very much, up to the next gig, right? So if you are thinking about joining the ranks of the AAA industry, industry and the big studios and
It's
whatever,
gonna be
you
hard.
do need to be aware of this situation. It's no
Yeah.
longer the sort of like magical days of Blizzard in the early 2000s where you could be a part of the
Yeah.
team and be
Even
there for like 15 years.
even during the pandemic, this was like the golden era, if we're being honest. During the pandemic, where everyone was staying at home, so more people was playing game. We're playing games, so we're just not in that era, and we are in an era where there's a lot of
Can
layoffs.
be an amazing creative mind, right? Like that's not how it works now, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I do feel a lot of people might still hold to that idea and want that kind of like lifestyle, when in reality that's not how it works anymore. You can still find that kind of stuff, but you're gonna have to look for other types of like avenues, like indie development, smaller size team, maybe advertising, things that are a little bit on a smaller scale. When you're working with smaller scales, or when you're working in the smaller scale projects, you usually have a little bit more creative control. You usually have a little bit more communication with the team. You usually have clients that are a little bit closer to you, so the creative decisions can be made properly. And if that's the kind of like environment that you like to work on, then awesome. There is still a lot of opportunities out there who will be focusing more and more into that kind of scale. On the big side of things, however, things will be different. And especially if you're a student, you do need to be aware that there are going to be some sacrifices that you might need to make, more than we already make as artists, right? But there are other types of sacrifices if you want to belong or be a part of that particular style or that particular type of projects. Now, talking about the disconnect, one of the big disconnects, and this is important for us as artists, is that the people with the money, they want to make games with less money, right? Faster and with better revenue, which sounds very stupid when you put it that way, but that's the way most of them are thinking, because they want to see this as a business. We as artists, yes, we sometimes are guilty of spending way too much time on a specific asset or on a specific thing, making it look amazing, when in reality it's not going to be there. We recently had that conversation on one of the shorts where I uploaded a barrel showing some like texture work, and a lot of people were saying, this is stupid, you shouldn't do that, it's just a barrel, it's going to be on the background. And of course, it was a different point that I was trying to make, but they are right. Like sometimes we do spend a lot of time on specific things that might not require that much attention, and we don't spend the time where we really need to focus on. So one of the things that I feel needs to happen on our industry is we as artists, we do need to think a little bit more about the efficient side of things, about the production side of things, about the money side of things, the business side of things. We want to continue working or doing art because we love doing it. We're very passionate about it, right? But we also need to think about keeping the lights on, making sure that we can pay the bills, making sure that the studio can stay afloat. Because if we waste too much time, and I know it's not only our fault, like there are other decisions out there that are wasting a lot of time, but if we waste a lot of time or don't focus enough on certain parts of the process, then that can definitely damage the other parts of the outcome for the industry as a whole. This is where AI comes into play, and I don't want to make a huge video about AI. I do want to talk about this, but we're probably going to be talking about this later. I'm not, as you guys know, pro AI on the generative side of things. I don't AI to image. I don't like AI to 3D models. They are not like what we need. That's not what we as an industry should be striving or looking forward to. But there are certain AI tools. For instance, Sparseal recently announced that they're working on a retopology tool that's going to be AI assisted. I think those kind of tools are really neat. I think they can help us as artists to alleviate some of the complicated parts of the process and allow us to focus on the creative side. So we will have this conversation later on, but keep in mind that yes, AI is another one of those elements that's really sort of like rocking the industry right now, and that's why the executives, the people again with the money, are seeing AI as like the best solution, like the golden parachute, right? Like the thing that's gonna save the production, because they think
not every studios thinks like that. And this is one thing I will say. Like I remember when at school I was listening to a conference of behavior, and they were talking about how behavior is is a bit like is not really into adventuring into AI, especially when we're talking about the ethical side of things where AI is actually stealing from other artists. So yeah, not every big studios think like that though. That's what I want to say.
Wrongly. I'm gonna be very blunt.
Behavior
they think
at least doesn't
that
think
AI
like
is gonna
that.
replace us as artists, when in reality it's only a tool that we can use, yes, to make the work a little bit more efficient and better, but if they see it as a replacement for us as artists, that's when again the disconnect happens, and then they're gonna eventually realize it's not gonna be good enough to make their projects profitable. So what do I want to get to with this video? I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware that Yes, I am aware, and everyone in the industry is aware that things are very, very rocky and chaotic right now. They're chaotic for seniors, they're chaotic for mid-level artists, they're chaotic for junior artists, they're chaotic for
Yes.
students as well. Like everyone right now, we are in this chaotic time. But chaos doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to implode and just like completely get destroyed. Are there gonna be like really bad news that
We're
we get
just
sometimes
on the
like
down
layoffs
right
at
now.
Xbox? Yes, we're gonna have a little bit of that. But
And when we hit rock bottom, we can only go up. So
we're also going to have some really good news. As I mentioned before, the indie scene, for instance, is flourishing.
yes,
There's a bunch of games that are going to be coming out very, very soon that are really, really interesting and really, really cool by teams that are passionate about what we do. So if you enjoy creating, if you enjoy art, if you enjoy this process of working with a team and creating amazing things that inspire others, there is still a lot of hope for this. As I've mentioned before, keep in mind that all of the skills that we learn as 3D artists, they're not only applicable to video games. There's a bunch of other areas out there that we can pivot a little bit, right? For a little while the industry or the video game side of things establishes a little bit more, there could be other options that you could explore and you could use your skills to, again, keep the lights on. So don't worry about that. Worry about staying true to yourself and learning and improving on the crafts and on the skills that you want to focus on. As artists, it's very, very important to not lose that creative spark. Even when things look very, very bleak, they cannot take away what we are as artists. Even if we are working on a traditional like office job or in retail or whatever, that doesn't stop you from being an artist. And I know that this also means that, hey, maybe the specific dream that I have about working at a big studio might not be possible right now. That's fine. You're still an artist and you can still keep working on the skills to become an artist. And this is one very important point that I want to mention, because this is another thing that my peers and I have talked about. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that think that they're ready to be a part of a team and work on a project, when in reality, their portfolio doesn't show that. So if you truly want to work on projects and you want to have the opportunity, you need to be ready. I know that there are not a lot of opportunities right now. Again, that doesn't mean that that's going to be the situation all the time. There will be more opportunities later on. There will be other types of opportunities, but regardless of the types of opportunities, you need to be prepared. And if your portfolio is not ready, if you don't have a strong network to know when those opportunities appear, if you are really hidden in your house, in your PC, and you're not like interacting with other people in other communities, it's going to be very difficult to be able to break through and enter into this industry. So I want to close this video by saying, guys, I hear you. I understand. I know that things might look a little bit bleak and they might look a little bit chaotic. Some of it, it's part of the decisions that the people with the investments and the money, the big studios, have been making the past couple of years. And now we're seeing those consequences. And unfortunately, yes, we as artists, as a workforce, we are going to suffer from some of those consequences while things recover. But no one can take away the things that we know, the skills that we have, and the passion that we share. My advice: keep working on your stuff. Enjoy it. Do whatever you need to stay afloat. Branch out and pivot if necessary, finding those opportunities that we talked about in maybe other areas while things calm down a little bit and we can figure out a better sense of balance in this industry. But keep learning. Keep preparing yourself. Keep working on those passion projects. Maybe this is the perfect opportunity for you to create your own game. What's stopping you from creating a simple demo? What's stopping you from creating your own IP or your own merch or whatever? There are a bunch of things that you can do as an artist. And even if this is not like the gigantic worldwide scale that you might want, even having a local representation or having support on a local level could be more than enough to keep you going and to give you the strength and the energy to create more things, more interesting things. Be sure that I'm still gonna be here. I love 3D. I don't see myself doing anything else. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be teaching you more tools, more interesting tips, tricks, techniques, art fundamentals, all of the things that we've done here in the channel. So if you ever need a safe place to just enjoy 3D and enjoy sharing this type of stuff with other people, be sure that this community is gonna be here for you. And well, that's it for this one, my friends. If you want to leave some...
Okay, this was a good video, and with the little memo, inspirational memo, I like it. This was a good video.